Okay, just give me a moment as everyone's jumping on, and the recording has started. So, Chair Baker, whenever you are ready.
All right, thank you. I will call to order the City of Ferndale Planning Commission meeting for Wednesday, December 16th, 2020. It is 6:31 p.m. and we will begin with a roll call from our city clerk.
All right, good evening. Commissioner Azar.
Here.
Commissioner Brazen.
Here.
Commissioner Foster.
Here.
Commissioner Hagforce.
Here.
Commissioner Hoskew.
Here.
Councilman Pollica.
Here.
Commissioner Showalter.
Here.
Commissioner Williamson. And Chair Baker.
Here, thank you very much. We've not had any indication from Commissioner Williamson that he will not be in attendance tonight. So if we need to, we can come back around and excuse his absence, but I do expect him to be here shortly. We do have a quorum, so we can move forward. Our next item is the approval of the agenda. I have a proposal. If someone would make the motion, I would suggest that we move item 7B up, that we make it the first of our discussion items, so that we swap item 7B and make it 7A.
I'll support the agenda with that change proposed.
Thank you. That was a motion by Commissioner Hagforce. Was that a second by Councilman Pollica? What did I miss there?
This is Commissioner Brazen. I can second.
Oh, thank you so much. And I see that Commissioner Williamson has joined us at 6:32. All right, we've got a motion to approve the agenda as amended by Commissioner Hagforce with a second by Commissioner Brazen. We'll have a roll call vote on that, please.
Sorry about that.
Right.
Commissioner Azar.
Yes.
Commissioner Brazen.
Yes.
Commissioner Foster.
Yes.
Commissioner Hagforce.
Yes.
Commissioner Hoskew.
Yes.
Councilman Pollica.
Yes.
Commissioner Showalter.
Yes.
Commissioner Williamson.
Yes.
And Chair Baker.
Yes, thank you. The motion passes. We'll now move on to item number 3A, the approval of the June 3rd, 2020 minutes. Any edits or changes to that from commissioners? This was one we had to go back and work on because of a recording challenge, I believe. All right, if there are no changes, looking for a motion to approve.
I move to approve the minutes from the June 3rd meeting.
Second. Hoskew seconds.
Thank you. I have a motion from Commissioner Brazen with a second from Commissioner Hoskew to approve the minutes of June 3rd, 2020. We'll have a roll call vote, please, City Clerk.
Commissioner Azar.
Yes.
Commissioner Brazen.
Yes.
Commissioner Foster.
Yes.
Commissioner Hagforce.
Yes.
Commissioner Hoskew.
Yes.
Councilman Pollica.
Yes.
Commissioner Showalter.
Yes.
Commissioner Williamson.
Yes.
And Chair Baker.
Yes, thank you. The motion passes. Moving on next to approval of the December 2nd, 2020 minutes. There was a correction that was requested by a resident that has been submitted verbatim and has been updated. So unless there are any other changes or updates to the minutes, if someone would be, I'd be looking for a motion to approve as amended because there has been a change.
Through the chair, I do have a couple of changes to note.
Thank you, Commissioner Williamson.
The minutes note that I was absent. I was actually, I wasn't absent, but I was late. I came in, I think, about 20 minutes after the meeting started. And there is a comment on page 21 of the minutes attributed to me, but I am not the person who made that comment. I'm not sure who it was. It says, I was talking to the architect today. We were joking about how it wouldn't be allowed in Ferndale, even though it was designed by Zaha Hadid. So if that rings a bell with anyone, That's
I
somebody,
think
was
that
me.
was Commissioner Showalter.
okay.
Because I had to look that building up then, because Matt taught me about metal paneling. Thanks, Commissioner Williamson. It is sometimes hard to catch. I think our clerks do a really great job not being in the room with us to catch who's saying what. Any other changes? So we've got now a change that's already been forwarded to the clerk from Ms. Ulster that's been forwarded verbatim. Commissioner Williamson was not absent, and we'll update that attribution on page 21 to Commissioner Showalter. If not, we'd need a motion to accept as amended, please.
Foster moves to accept as amended.
Polika seconds.
Thank you. I have a motion from Commissioner Foster with a second from Councilman Polika. We will have a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Azar,
Yes.
Commissioner Brazen,
Yes.
Commissioner Foster,
Yes.
Commissioner Hagforce,
Yes.
Commissioner Hoskew,
Yes.
Councilman Polika,
Yes.
Commissioner Showalter,
Yes.
Commissioner Williamson,
Yes.
and Chair Baker.
Yes, thank you. The motion passes. Thank you for doing those full votes for our city clerk. Just easier than trying to raise hands or do a voice vote over Zoom. Clearer for the records. We will move on to item number 4. This is the call to audience. This is a chance for anyone in the audience to address the Planning Commission on anything that's not on the agenda tonight. So a quick reminder of the 2 discussion items that we do have on the agenda. We've just moved item number 7B up to 7A. That is revisiting site plan draft, a draft site plan conversation that we had, I believe, at our last meeting for a potential development at 397 East Breckenridge. The other item is the discussion of the residential development as part of the DOT development. Anyone who would like to address the Planning Commission on anything other than those 2 items, feel free to either use the raise your hand function in Zoom, or you can physically raise your hand, turn your camera on, raise your hand. Let us know that you'd like to comment. There will be time for comment and questions when we get to those discussion items. So anything that's not on the agenda tonight. I'm gonna click to the next screen because I know we've got 2 screens going on here. Erin, do you see anyone raising their hand or anyone on the phone?
No, I do not see anyone with their hand raised, but we do have 2 call-ins. So I want to make space for them. So for the first one, the last digits ending in 451. If you have anything you want to mention at this time, feel free to unmute yourself and go from there. Okay. We also have another call-in with the last numbers 860. If you have any comments at this time, you feel free to unmute yourself.
And what, as a reminder, how do you unmute if you're on the phone? Does anyone?
Yep, it was *4. I do not see any hand raised, and I did not see any unmute on that, so I think we can move forward.
Great, thank you very much. All right, no items under old business or new business this evening. We do have a discussion item that has come back around, but there's still no action requested on it. So it's back in discussion items rather than old business. And that is the potential development at 397 East Breckenridge. So we will have an introduction from our city staff. We'll give the applicant a chance to present their updates to this draft plan. And then we'll take any questions or comments from the audience. And then we'll get some feedback from the Planning Commission. So I'll turn it over to Erin.
Great, thank you. So as Chair Baker mentioned, this is an item that was on our November 18th Planning Commission meeting as a discussion item. It is a multifamily residential development. In the packet, the applicant offered up 2 different concepts that we have not seen before, and would like to discuss the trade-offs between the 2 designs. The main concerns were regarding parking and access, as well as some front entry facing garages and some more architectural compatibility elements to the development. One of the things that I had discussed with the applicant as one of the questions they had prior to coming back for discussion was in regards to the front facing garages, which I know we spoke a lot about at the last meeting. And I did clarify with our attorney regarding that. And so there are some items in section 24-183, accessory buildings, structures, and uses, that speaks to the effect of the front facing garages, and there's a set of criteria that would need to be met in order for those front facing garages to be permitted. So that could be a point of discussion, and anyway through the discussion, if you want more clarity on that or more specifics, we can dive into that. But as a reminder too, that this is currently zoned R2, and across the street is R3. Because of that current zoning, if they do move forward in any capacity after this discussion, they would also be seeking a conditional rezoning. And we did talk about that conditional rezoning and those options in at the previous commission meeting as well. And I think that I will leave it at that and welcome the applicant to provide some more context to the designs that they have provided. And at any time, if you would like me to share my screen, I have those available so I can share those. As well as provide capabilities of sharing to the applicant.
Thanks, Aaron. I think I see
We're here.
the Levines. Hey, how are you guys? Welcome back. Thank you.
Hi, this is Alec and Bruce Levine. Thanks again for Aaron's help and allowing us to represent what we would like to hopefully do in the near future. From our discussion from the last meeting, it was helpful, but it still kind of wasn't clear to us 100% which way we were allowed to go. Once again, we want to do something that's going to be in keeping with the neighborhood and the vision that Ferndale is looking to grow with in the future. So we took the plan, I don't know if you can see it or not, site plan alternate A.
Aaron, I can pull it up if you give me access to present my screen.
Let me just share mine. I have it available. Just give me 1 second.
Okay.
Let me know when you can see it.
Thanks, Aaron.
There we go.
Okay, so in the one on the right, we're calling that site plan alternate A. It's kind of a hybrid from the last one we presented. We took the concerns from the board and incorporated that into this plan. We got rid of the 2 driveway curb cuts and made it 1. We took the information from your ordinance, I don't know the number off the top of my head, and we met those criteria. We still have the 2 front facing single car garages, but they're pushed back 5 feet from the front. There are 2 porches on either side of the front facing garages, and there's the space between the garages, which is required by your ordinance. There's 6 units, and we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 car parking. We thought it was really important to blend into the neighborhood and have all our parking on site. We appreciate the opportunity that the city suggested we might get a variance, but I think it would be better in the long run for everybody to have our own parking that's required. I think we're actually over. We also did a quick calculation. I don't know if,
Yeah, I think if you scroll down a little bit, you can see the numbers on the there it is. Yep.
There it is. So the pavement coverage in A is 26%. And then without getting too much in the site plan B yet, site plan alternate B has 48% pavement coverage. That's kind of like the, we're calling that the plan that was kind of approved from the previous meeting we attended. We kind of took that concept and ran with that. So there's 48 on that one and 26 on ours.
There's a lot more green belt on Plan A, but just something to consider.
Yeah, the total impervious surface is 78% on B and 70 on A. The building coverage is more on A than B, but that was kind of a trade-off.
So the porches, the one note on the porches, they'll extend over into the garages, so they'll blend in with the garages. There's actually four. Each unit will have their own porch. So if you can kind of see next to units B, they will also have their own porch facing the front setback, front yard.
Right. We also incorporated bike racks, landscaping around the air conditioning units. We didn't get into the elevations. We thought maybe once we got a little more direction on which plan the council was leaning towards, we could work on that.
Garages for the garbage.
And even on the alternate plan A, we incorporated the garages. It's hard to see on this, but they're architecturally going to be blended into the whole facade. You'll see if you look closely, there's two columns on each porch, and there'll also be two columns for each in front of each garage with a very large overhang. So I guess with that said, I guess we're open for some feedback. If you like, I could go through Plan B too.
Sure. Yeah. If there's any highlights you wanted to point out in B with the
I thought Plan
style.
B was also, it worked well for us too.
Mm-hmm.
We had all our parking on site, 5 units. The front of the unit will have a porch. The air conditionings are in the back, bike rack in the back. It would actually be, for us, easier to build Plan B than Plan A. But, you know, we could definitely...
There's no front-facing garages. That's the main thing.
Right. The big thing, of course, is there's no front-facing garages, and each unit has their own porch again, and there's a bike rack, screened ACs, 5 units with 10-car parking. So that concept was the same. Also, we went over the parking allowance and kept it all on site. So we're appreciate the opportunity to discuss this with you and like to move forward.
Thank you. And I know you don't have updated elevations, which makes perfect sense. The site configuration and the driveway and the garages are really the main conversation. Would the aesthetic treatment, that kind of arts and crafts look, would that change in alternate site plan B, or would it still be that sort of arts and crafts look?
We wouldn't have as much of an opportunity to highlight that in B, but we would still, you know, work that in there.
Okay.
For sure.
Thank you. All right. Erin, would you bring it back to the main screen for now, please? Thank you. All right, let's see. Are there any questions or comments from the audience? If there's anyone in the audience who would like to ask a question or make a comment on the discussion item related to a proposed development at 397 East Breckenridge. Again, there's no action on this item this evening. We're just clarifying a few things with the developer before they come back with a site plan. And if there's anyone who would like to ask a question or make a comment, you can raise your hand. Please state your name for the record. You've got 3 minutes. Aaron, I see one hand up on the main screen. I see Dave's hand up.
Okay, yep.
Okay, welcome, Dave.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
I unmuted correctly. I just like to talk, this is the rezoning that happened. I think it was in, does anyone know exactly when that the rezoning to R3 happened? Is that like 2011? Okay. Yeah, so the rezone, what I'm seeing, and this could happen right next door to me, that someone could come and knock down my neighbor's house and put a 5-unit apartment building next to my house without me even knowing about it. I really feel like I didn't get any real input back in 2011 when this got through. It was the middle of the recession, but I know this is supposed to be about the design. This doesn't fit. You can't build 6-unit apartments, stick it on a 60-foot wide lot in a residential area like this and make it fit. It does not fit. The one that you did on Withington, it doesn't fit. None of this fits. And this goes along with what my comment would be about the next agenda item. It doesn't fit. It doesn't fit in with the atmosphere, with the rest of the ambience of the neighborhood. And this idea that you're just going to slap big apartment buildings or, out of scale apartment buildings. I've looked at the one on Revester Street and I'm watching that thing go up 7 feet away from the neighbor's house, something like that. This doesn't fit. This was a wrong decision that was originally made. I know that you're just about the design. The design doesn't fit. You can't make this fit. It's an insult to the people who live nearby. The way that this was brought out back in 2011, was there anybody who went out and said, what is this going to impact the neighborhood? How is it going to impact people's property values? There was none of that I know of. This is wrong. This is wrong. I don't want my neighbor to be all of a sudden tearing down his house and me having a 45-foot tall 5-unit apartment building next to me. There you go. And this is a continuation. The horrible design of the south facade of the dot, which is such an insult to us. Oh my God. The light pollution, noise pollution. I have a ventilator 80 feet away from my backyard.
Okay, Dave, could you state your name and address for the record?
310 West Saratoga Street.
Thank you. Was there anything else on Breckenridge at this time, Dave?
It doesn't fit. It's wrong. We shouldn't be doing this. Thank you.
Thank you. Alrighty, other questions or comments from the audience? This is on the potential development at 397 East Breckenridge.
I don't see anything at this time, but we can give another pause to see if there's any comments. And then there are a few call-ins, so we can, it looks like we only have one call-in right now, so we can make some space for that as well.
Can you guys hear me?
Let's see. Yes.
Yep.
Hi, my name's Christian. I wasn't sure if I was supposed to raise my hand. I couldn't find the raise hand thing.
That's all right.
Is this all going, so I'm looking at Google Maps right now.
I'm sorry, Christian, could you state your name and address for the record, please?
It's Christian Rice, and I live at 407 St. Louis Street.
Thank you.
Is this all going where the 397 East Breckenridge house is? Like, just that one house is being torn down?
That is, yep, it's a double lot. That is the current property address, 397 East Breckenridge.
Okay. That's all the only question I had.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the audience on the potential development at 397 East Breckenridge?
We do have one call-in, last digits 451. If you have any comments at this time, you can unmute yourself. And otherwise, I do not see any further indication that anyone has any comments.
Got it. Thanks, Erin. Alrighty, we will turn this back to the Planning Commission. We've answered the question that the second commenter had, that Christian had. Dave's comment about scale and fit, I know are some of the things that we're talking about, particularly related to a conditional rezoning. But we also had some questions about driveways, garages, what was allowed and what wasn't allowed. My understanding, Erin, is that the layout as proposed in either of these two options does meet section 24-183. It does meet all of the conditions. Is that correct?
Yes, and certainly go through the site plan approval process to,
Of course, yeah.
Go through the details, but yes.
Thank you. All right, the second, or I guess the alternate A, my only question was, I wanted to make sure I was reading correctly. My question for the applicant is, what is the depth of that driveway pad? Is it 20 feet? I'm just wondering if cars are going to be overhanging the sidewalk, how close they are to the sidewalk. I think it was 20 feet, but I want to make sure I'm reading it correctly.
Okay, so how far back is the garage from the sidewalk, you're asking?
Correct. Yep.
So
Can someone park an
plus,
SUV there or a
it
pickup
looked like
truck?
20 feet plus the additional 5.
Got it. So someone could definitely fit a pickup truck or something there. It's a challenge we sometimes have with corner
Short
lots, for
driveway,
example,
right.
that have a shorter driveway. Yep. So
Yeah.
thank you. Okay. All right. Other questions and comments? That was my main question. So from the Planning Commission, who would like to jump in next? Any other questions or comments for the applicant at this time? I can't see everybody, so you can go ahead and unmute yourself, because we're on 2 separate screens here. Is there a preference between A or B? These do both, at least at preliminary look, fit on the site in if it were conditionally rezoned.
So I'm looking at,
Commissioner Showalter.
Yeah, sorry. I'm looking at site plan B. There's a dashed line. Is that building going to cantilever over the driveway?
No, it's not.
Okay.
There might be a porch or a balcony over the porch, but no cantilever.
I just saw that dashed line and was wondering if that was supposed to represent
no, that is like the side yard and front yard setbacks.
Okay.
As per your zoning ordinance.
Other questions or comments from the commission, or do commissioners have I see Commissioner Hagfors. Thank you.
Yeah, I have a question for the Levines. I noticed, so obviously you guys initially came here proposing 6 units, and then you provide this additional design that's only 5 units. I guess kind of a question is, what is kind of your break-even point, or what's kind of the minimum amount of units that you guys would be willing to do the project on? I know currently it's only zoned for possibly up to 2, so you'd have to get rezoned anything for more than that. But what's kind of the minimum that you guys would be willing to do the project with, just out of curiosity?
Well, the way we read it was actually it's 2 lots, so it'd be 2 duplexes at a minimum. And
so we've got in site plan B, we've got 5 units, and they're all planned for 2-bedroom. And then in site plan A, we've got 4 units that are 2-bedroom and 2 in the back that are singles. So the units have some variances for the business case, but
yeah, for the business case, it'd be basically the same.
It's a little bit favorable for A.
So here's our thinking, quite candidly. My 2 sons are also partners in this, and they're going to be they'd like to be living there in unit C. They each would like to have their own unit. So we would really be renting out 4 units, and they would be living each in C, one, you know, each have their one bedroom for themselves in unit C. So they'd be on-site managing and also living there too. That was kind of the concept for unit alternate A. That was the only reason really why we went to 6. I mean, either we'd be happy to do either. Our preference is A.
Okay, thank you.
Which one would you prefer? Just, I'd like to get some candid feedback and not just, you know, we're not going to hold anything to anybody at this point. It's not like
I've got the same
no
question, Bruce.
I mean, I'll throw it out there and say that personally, A is still more appealing visually and concept wise than B, especially considering that B would require still the rezoning to not get really a dynamic building, and then also with the neighbor correspondence of all the headlights shining into the neighbor's home, I don't really want to see happen. So I would still support A over the two, but that's just kind of personal preference, just off the cuff.
Well, they're A and B are both going to require the conditional variance.
So reason.
Correct. But I wouldn't want to give you the conditional variance for B, is what I'm kind of saying. It's like A is a dynamic project, and so something like that would warrant it, but B, yeah, it's just not my preference.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, this is Councilman Polika. I would concur with Commissioner Hagsforth. A is more attractive. I'm still not thrilled with the upfront garages. They would definitely have to be something that would blend in. I would hate to drive by and see big white garage door on this beautiful design that you did, because I'm assuming that you're going to continue with the original design that you shared last month.
Yeah, that was our intention.
Yeah, B.
We call it craftsman style.
Craftsman style, yes. B to me is very, for lack of a better term, motelish. It's condo style, and I'm just not I'm not thrilled with it. A to me does blend in more with the neighborhood. I agree it's a very large unit, but it's also, twice the size lot as my house, my property. So you're dealing with 60 feet. I have about 33 feet. And so I could see a house like this built on that site and not be overwhelming. I'm curious, what is the height that you're proposing for your unit? I know that currently is 30 feet is the current allotment.
We would be 3 stories, so it would be very close to that, if not more. Probably, yeah. If we could get 33, I think we can make it work. You measure that from the midpoint of the height of the roof, or?
Yeah, it would be the highest point of the roof.
The highest point or the midpoint?
Aaron, you would have to answer that.
I believe it's the midpoint.
Midpoint, okay. And what is it's R2 now? What is the maximum height in an R2?
35 feet, Greg.
It's 35 feet. Okay.
So I couldn't. I'm not the architect. He couldn't join us tonight. But it would still be taller than an R2.
Okay. But again, we're not looking at 45 feet.
I hope not.
I hope not either.
Those are definitely things we would get into as we talk about conditional rezoning, Greg. Those are great questions.
Great, thanks.
Thank you. Other questions and comments from the commission? Commissioner Showalter?
Yeah, have we, I know that we were having a discussion whether or not front-facing garages were were allowed per ordinance or not. And I was wondering if there's been a decisive call whether you can even have front-facing garages.
Yeah, there's a set of conditions in section 24-183. There's 4 or 5 conditions under which they are permitted. This does meet, at least, at first glance, without a site plan, this does meet those. And we may want to revisit those after after the new year. Yeah, I know we've got a little bit of a list for residential now. I can say that A is my preference as well. The configurate, not just the green space, but really the way that it uses the alley as well. One of the reasons that we are hoping to keep and revitalize the last of the alleys near downtown that we have is so that we can use them properly. I think this building really does use the alley properly, which will cut down on both parking on the street and driveways on the street. So A is because of the lot coverage, the configuration, the less cement aimed at the street, and the use of the alley would be my preference. Commissioner Foster, did you have something?
Thanks. I agree with the design. I was just wanted to go back to the zoning requirement for the overhead doors. And I just think that, so I see the section in 24-183. I think since the 24-184 subsection 6 refers to multiple family residential buildings that doesn't allow the overhead loading doors, I think we might just either need to clean that up in the ordinance or just get clarification on how that applies to this project. I think that the 24-183 is more specific to this, but they do seem to be a bit contradictory. So,
thanks, Michelle. I think that was the core of the head scratcher last time. So, thank you.
So, Erin, I guess, did you receive? So, I mean, we're saying that the 24-183 is more so applied. Is that what council advised, or are we just?
Yeah, thank you. That's what we discussed. Certainly I don't have a written opinion regarding it or anything like that. And we did acknowledge that it is a bit messy and isn't very clear.
Oh, thank you. Clarifying.
All right, any other final questions or comments from the commission on this, or any other direction for the applicant related to alternate plan A versus alternate plan B?
Commissioner Foster, I think just in terms of design, I certainly have a preference for alternative A. I think that in terms of unit count and giving us, conditional use to upzone this, I think as we heard from the public comment tonight, that this can be a sore issue, I think, for neighborhood residents, and I think we're seeing this more and more often. So I don't want to, I guess, not mention that. I'm not necessarily providing an opinion either. I think that, that would be a concern, I guess, is increasing the unit count is clearly why we're doing the conditional rezoning. But if we have feedback from the community that, I guess, looking forward to our master plan update in the next year so we can get more feedback on this issue. As I think we are seeing more and more of these rebuilds. Sorry, I'm not sure that comment's very helpful, but I guess that's it.
Thanks, Commissioner Hagfors.
Yeah, I guess probably a suggestion I'll make when you guys come back to present kind of this configuration and the elevations and whatnot is maybe in the renderings, use the neighboring homes as part of your renderings. So that way you can really show if you really are trying to be harmonious with the street, it can have a better visual of doing so. Because sometimes we get some of these renderings and it's just a building and you don't know how it is scale wise with the neighbor homes. So that may be a good suggestion when you guys bring out those.
Okay, no, we're going to reach out to the neighborhood and do our best to fit in and be sensitive to their concerns. And that's part of the reason we came here tonight, is to hear from the neighborhood. And I appreciate the one gentleman's comments. We're going to, I know things change, but we're going to do our best to be sensitive to that.
Well, and the neighbors, you know, if and when this does come back with a full site plan and for a conditional rezoning, there will be a public hearing on that. And so the neighbors
Sure.
will be noticed on that.
No, we appreciate that.
All right. Is there a final comment, Mr. Nicholson? You're still muted, Mr. Nicholson. Are you unable to? There we go.
I've got it. I think I'm going here. Okay.
Uh-huh.
I don't want to be snarly or snarky, but wait until you present one of these plans and I understand. It seems like you don't even have to have a plan, but maybe I go through one of these hearings. On the other side of Woodward on Breckenridge, next to a $300,000 or $400,000 house, I imagine you'll really start hearing from people. Just like when you were in a more upscale neighborhood, when you had the church over there on Pinecrest, people were complaining it's a much more upscale neighborhood. People over here, over on the east side, they're much less likely to say anything. I think this is going to come to a head when someone starts tearing down a house over there. Just my little comment. But it'd be best if this was, I guess my comment would be, I don't think this was really fairly put. I don't think people know about it. In fact, I think if you talk to the people who actually live on the streets affected, most of them don't have a clue what could happen. And I don't think that there was really a fair attempt back in 2011 to tell people what this was really about. And at the time, everyone's underwater with their mortgages, so on and so forth. I think, I've talked to the people, a couple of people over on Vester Street. They're not happy. They're not happy at all. They feel like they're just stumped on this. And no offense to the developers, of course, they're just doing what developers do. But they feel like, our property values and so on and so forth are being compromised, and who's really going to get the effect out of it. I understand the idea of population density and so on and so forth, but that doesn't really answer somebody's, what about my property values? What about my quality of life? All right, enough from me. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Nicholson. All righty. Okay. If there aren't any other final questions or comments from the commission, we will move on to the next item.
This is
Matt
Showalter. Yep. I just want to say I like A more than B. That's it.
Got it. Yep. I think there's a clear consensus on that one.
Through the chair,
right.
Chair Baker, I do have a couple of final comments on this.
Commissioner Williamson? Yep.
And this isn't really directed as much to the traffic pattern on here, and this is my last meeting as a commissioner. I'll be off at the end of the year, so people can take this for what it's worth. But I have to look at this from a bigger picture perspective. You've got to think about the conditional rezoning necessity to think about this at all. We have the south side of Vester, the north side of Vester, and the south side of Breckenridge that are all zoned R3. It's been determined that these are appropriate parcels to increase the density, but the idea is that then you're starting to step it down into an R2. So when we have essentially three sides of the street, two sides of Vester and one side of Breckenridge that are already zoned for R3, and those haven't really started to be developed to the extent where they've been built up yet. And then you've got someone looking for a conditional rezoning that's outside of that R3, getting out into an R2 district. I really question the wisdom of even asking for a conditional rezoning of this parcel, let alone granting it, when we have all of this other southern property that is actually zoned R3 that hasn't been built up yet. The Vester project that we've all seen, that we know is going up, is on the south side of Vester, right off of 9 Mile. That's a larger project. That's density that's moving up from 9 Mile into the neighborhood. in this specific situation, there is an ability here to build already 2 duplexes on these properties, and a conditional rezoning is being proposed to allow 5 units instead of 4 units on these properties. So this raises serious questions for me as a commissioner. It's going to be up to all of y'all to make a decision on this if it comes back, and I'm going to leave that as my final comment.
Thanks, Commissioner Williamson. Any other final questions or comments from the commission? We will move on. All right, again, there's no action on this tonight. If the conditional rezoning is requested, that does trigger two public hearings. Sorry, I'm losing my words. That will be noticed, which I know the applicant is aware of. So, Aaron, I know that you've sort of laid out the next steps in the process, but we wouldn't realistically be seeing this back in front of us until, I mean, the end of January at the very earliest, right? Because of public notice requirements?
Yes, that is correct.
Great. All right. Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much to the applicant. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We will move on to, move the papers around, item number 7B. Or I'm sorry, yes, the new item number 7B, which is the discussion item for residential development as part of the DOT development. I first want to note that we have a commissioner who's going to recuse himself from this item. I've been notified that Commissioner Showalter will recuse himself. Is that correct, Commissioner Showalter?
Correct.
Thank you. I'm going to make sure the clerk notes that. So we will begin similar to what we did with the last item, with an introduction from our city staff. We'll have a presentation from the applicant, and then we will take, I know that there's a lot of people waiting to do public comment. Thanks for waiting with us. We will take, what I typically do is take all of the public questions and comment first. It makes it move a little bit smoother than kind of going back and forth after every question. So we'll have our city staff open it up. We'll have a presentation from the applicant, and then we will open it up for public questions and comment. We'll then work through those questions and get answers, whether it's from the applicant or from our city staff. And then we'll deliberate as a commission, or not deliberate, we're not acting tonight. We'll discuss. Thank you, Brain, as a commission. So I will turn it over to Aaron. I think I need to go get caffeine.
Thank you. Yeah, so this is a discussion on the multifamily residential component of the DOT PUD. The PUD agreement is the Plan Unit Development Agreement, and that there were some amendments made. So the most recent PUD agreement was of June 2018. This particular residential component of the discussion this evening is a proposed 11 for rent multifamily units. The total height is proposed is 44 feet. There are 4 floors plus a partial basement. The units will be 1 and 2 bedrooms, and a range of square footages for each of those. Units will be a mix from walk-in units to townhouse units to upper story units. It is directly adjacent to the DOT, which is the municipal parking structure. And as part of this, we are discussing tonight some of the design elements that were brought forth from the applicants and development group. It is part of the development agreement of the larger project, as noted in the packet. And there are some other requirements. They may be seeking a waiver of 7 parking spaces. Based on the discussions that we've had about it, it does trigger some other elements of our zoning ordinance that may or may not have been updated since the agreement was put in place for the site plan. And as mentioned, this is a discussion item, and they would need to come back in front of Planning Commission for a full site plan approval. I think I gave a good overview of everything that we're about to see tonight. I do welcome our city manager, Joe Gaucho, if he would like to make any comments as well. And he's available to answer any questions. And then otherwise, if there are no further comments from staff, we can turn it over to the development team.
Thank you, Aaron. You did an excellent job summarizing the most recent agreements. I am just here to simply introduce a refresher on the context for the project, given its duration. The project initially was approved, the PUD and the special land use agreement were initially approved in October of 2017 by the Planning Commission and City Council. That, as contemplated, that included a city-sponsored parking development, a renovation of a West Troy streetscape, updating of the alley, and then it contemplated the catalyzing 40,000 square feet of office space development on top of the dock in the future, and a future residential development known as Parcel B. That at the time was contemplated as being an opportunity to leverage public property to achieve affordable housing goals. And so that was the goal. In the spring of 2018, following a rigorous RFP process for development partners, we updated the PUD to reduce the amount of square footage for the office space from 40,000 to 20,000 square feet. Aside from that, all the other development terms remained the same. All the goals remained the same within the PUD. And so after we did that amendment, we did cast another request for proposals for development partners, and we ultimately selected Versa Wanda LLC to be our partner in that development agreement. The initial development agreement was approved in the fall of 2018 and then updated again following the COVID-19 to make sure we could update the terms to reconsider the order of operations, if you will. And that was done in June 2020, and both of those items are included in the packet. Aside from that context, I would, this is really about the residential portion tonight, so I will introduce Greg Ernie, who is the principal of Versa Wanda LLC, and I will allow him to introduce his project.
Good evening, everybody. I hope you can hear me. Good. All right, thank you. Well, happy snow day, everybody. I'm happy to be here to present the initial concept for the residential end of the DOT project. As you all probably remember, and that Joe reminded you of, this project started as a mixed-use project, and it continues as such. And we're here to discuss the residential portion on the end. In your packet, you'll have Jason Krieger, by the way, is with me. He's the architect on the project, and will help run through the design. In this project, we've tried to incorporate many of the aspects, if not more, that the city required in the development agreement, including the affordable housing component, which the requirement is at 50%. And right now, to be honest with you, we have a stretch goal of 100%, and we're pretty confident we're going to get there. We're just working through some formalities in the process. So our goal for the project has always been to provide, a good variety of mixed income housing for the city of Ferndale as part of an end cap to this new development. And as you also may recall, the design is the buffer to the parking deck, which is a pretty industrious structure. It has, it can be, not very sightly when you look at it from the west side. So we believe that what we've tried to create and what we have created is a respectable development that really creates a buffer as you enter into the downtown area. And it also has elements of different size units. We did include the Joe's Christmas tree in one of the renderings. We upsized it a little bit. So we try to pay attention to the pocket park in the corner as a design element. But at this point, I'd really like to introduce Jason Krieger to walk through the design elements of it. And then I'm happy to field any questions either during his presentation or afterwards. So thank you very much for the opportunity to present, and we look forward to your comments.
Thank you. Jason Krieger with Krieger Architects, 2020 East 11 Mile, Royal Oak. It's good to see everybody again. Aaron, do you want me to share my screen, or do you want to walk through it? How do you want to do it? We have a short presentation that we want to walk through and share with with everybody.
Yeah, if it's okay with you, I'm just going to share my screen and you just tell me when to proceed to the next.
So I'll say go. All right, perfect.
Just give me one moment and let me
Okay.
know when you can see it.
Perfect. I can see it. So this right here is just a conceptual rendering of the dot. It's looking at the northwest corner. It's a 4-story wood frame building. We have concrete walls at the stairwells and along where the parking garage is for fire code. Let's go to the next one. We'll walk you through. We have some renderings at the end too. So the next couple of slides are really locating it. I think we all know where it is, but basically it's downtown Ferndale. It's zoned as PUD. To the next one, please. This is a site, so it's right at the corner of basically Allen and Troy. It's on the west side of the dot, as we're all familiar with. Now, one thing I want to mention quickly is that when we started to design this, we wanted to make sure that we respected the parking garage in the sense of its architectural features. There's a lot of vertical elements, which you'll see as we go through this. The palette is a bit more muted, and we use that, but then we also added more detail to it, so it has more of a residential feel. So the idea was to try and do what Greg mentioned was, transition from the parking garage into the residential, but we did not want to do something that was plugged on, so to speak, onto the end of the building. So let's keep going. So we have our zoning data. Basically what we're showing here, the takeaway is that we have basically a 0 lot line building, which is consistent with what I think we would expect for the project like this in downtown. Next, please. So this right here is our architectural site plan. You can see on the northwest corner, that's where the little public space is, which, pocket park, public space, whatever it may be. We wanted to make sure that that's where we had a lot of glass, some architectural features, something so that it gives back to the city, so to speak. Along the sidewalk, we have walk-ups where you can go right from Allen Street into the building. And then to the south there, we have the alleyway. So keep going. Okay, so we do have a partial basement in this building, proposed anyways, that would house our utilities. One of the challenges with this project is that the site is so small, and we're trying to create some form of density to have it make sense and be a good project. So we are going somewhat underground to create a basement for utilities, mechanicals, riser, things like that. We also have a little restroom down there for janitorial services, which would be just required by code. As we go to the ground floor, what you can see is our main entrance is on the north end of the building, which is a great spot for it. Male, and then we have a stairway going up. We have a stair on the south end that would be for egress or entrance as well, but it's not the primary entrance. We have a couple of walk-up units, and then we go up to floor 2, which you would access from the corridor. You can see there. We have a mix of 1s and 2s. You can see the ratio right there on the right, total of 11 units. But basically, we wanted to make sure that there was a good mix for leasability. Let's go up to the next level, please. So floors 3 and 4 are basically townhouse units, and townhouse in the sense that they're 2 stories. So you'd walk in on floor 3, and then floor 4 captures the rest of the space. So those are individual units. I'll go to the next one. The elevations, again, as I already mentioned, the idea is to blend it in with or respect the dot parking garage and have it tie in. And they're all high-end finishes. We have brick, cast stone, metal panels, storefront glass at the entrance, and then residential type windows as you go up. So let's keep going. These are the other elevations. Next slide, please. So the next 2 slides are building sections that really show a stacking plan. It looks like a Rubik's Cube, essentially, but what it's showing is that there is a partial basement, we have our egress, and it's just showing how the units stack on top of one another. So we can go to the next one. So this is probably a little bit more representative where you can see part of it does not have a basement, the other part does. Next slide, please. And then we have some renderings. So I think Greg mentioned it that, or maybe it was just in the write-up that our building height is 44 feet. That's to the roof deck. All of our mechanical units will be, well, actually, we really just have condensers because it's a all residential development. So everything will be completely screened. Nothing will be seen. We'll have access to the roof accordingly. And so we are within the boundaries of the approved PUD. So next slide, please. So these are some slides we were doing for ownership, showing that, if the holiday tree goes there, which we heard, how would it look, things like that. So these are just some ideas of how this would fit into the town. Next slide, please. I think that's it.
All right, thank you very much.
Yep.
Okay, Aaron, could you bring us back to the group view, please? Thank you. Much easier for me to see. Okay, Aaron, help me with a couple notes here. We will begin with questions and comments from the audience. What I like to do is get all of our questions and comments in, if possible, and then we work through answering them. If you are on the Zoom and would like to raise your hand, there is, as you move your cursor around, there is down at the bottom something that says participants. On mine, which is a PC, when I click on participants, I see a little ellipsis, little 3 dots. And if I click on that, I see raise hand. So that's where the raise hand feature is located on Zoom. You might not have the ellipsis, it might just show up for you. If you're interested, or if you're here via phone, I don't know that we have any phone callers at the moment. But to raise your hand via phone, you use the *9 key, and Aaron can see that. And if you're here via phone, *6 to unmute. Aaron will also call out anyone on the phone by the last 3 digits, just to make sure that we capture those comments as well. So let us start with questions and comments from the audience. Please raise your hand via Zoom. If you can't find the button, you can always just turn your camera on and raise your hand, and Aaron and I will keep an eye out. We've got 2 screens here, so we'll click back and forth between people. It is 7:33. Please state your name and address for the record, and you've got 3 minutes. Any questions or comments from the audience on the discussion item for residential development as part of the DOT? Who'd like to kick us off? Thank you.
Yeah, so we have the first individual to raise their hand is Bernie F.
Thank you. Welcome, Bernie.
Hi, how are you doing? I'm Bernie Frazier at 346 West Saratoga. I live right behind the current DOT structure. Couple quick things. First, I just wanted to thank, is it Commissioner Lipstadt who is leaving at the end of the year? I thought your comments on the last thing were right on point, and I congratulate you for your time. I wish you were staying on. Seems like you're very much needed. Also, I was kind of wondering, Commissioner Schultzer, who recused himself, why was the recusal? Is he an investor in this project? That was kind of disconcerting. Also, I know with the next question with regards to the design of the building, I know it's a very difficult thing for the architect, Jason, to design this, but I don't see how it's in keeping with the neighborhood. The neighborhood seems to be more of a craftsman style. The city is, old school buildings, going way back. Now the city put in this modern parking garage, which, as you can see, it kind of looks more like a prison from my windows. But that wasn't in keeping with the design of the neighborhood, which is craftsman. You can go around, all these houses are craftsman, and the downtown area is, old school brick and mortar, not really modern. So I would think that, maybe take more consideration into the neighborhood architect design and not so much into the parking garage, which is completely out of base with the design of the neighborhood as it is today. Also, I was curious on what the setback from the road will be. Is there a sidewalk? It seems like this lot, I'm not sure the size of the actual lot that you're going to be building all these units on, but it seems like you're going to be right up against the road, and it's going to be like all of a sudden you're going to come into this huge building right on the street there on Allen. And some other questions and concerns I had, if there's all those electrical wires, what's going to happen with that? Where's the staging going to take place for all this? Are you going to close down our alleyway again? We had to go for 2 years without having access to our alley. We were told this project was going to take 18 months, and here we are going into year number 3. So where's the staging going to take place for this project? And how is that going to affect the residents? What other working hours also? Are they going to deal with working hours? I know on the weekends when we were trying to sleep in for one day out of the week that you could sleep in, they were out here sometimes at 6 a.m. They said, oh, they don't start till 7, but that usually was not the case. I would think on the weekends they shouldn't be able to start before 9 a.m., which is required along on any street project around any school zone. Sorry, I had a whole list of things that were going on. And also, where's the parking for these units going to be? Are all the parkings going to be in the parking garage? Will it also accommodate for guests that would come and visit? Or would those guests end up overflowing onto our streets as well? So those are just some of my comments. Looking forward to hearing your feedback. Thank you.
Thank you, Bernie.
The next raised hand that I see was from Elster.
Thank you. Welcome, Evelyn.
Thank you. And thank you for the correction on the minutes. As far as the aesthetics go, it would be nice to give it a little more character. And the 0 setback for the ground level units, are they going to be able to find that many exhibitionists that want their lives displayed before the public? I understand this is Ferndale. We're kind of eclectic here, but that's a bit much. You'd have to be an exhibitionist to have a ground level apartment with, the great big windows and putting it right out there for right next to the sidewalk. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. We have our next commenter, Erin.
Yeah, I believe I saw Dave raise their hand first, and then we have another Zoom raise hand.
Thank you. Is that Dave Nicholson?
Yes.
You're still muted, Mr. Nicholson.
Unmuting.
Thank you.
Okay, I think I'm there.
Yes, sir.
I guess this doesn't about the design, but since I'm here, seems to me that the idea of having affordable housing in this here is just ludicrous. This should be luxury housing, top dollar. If we want, it would appear to me that the council can't give up a chance to be able to claim we've done affordable housing without actually being able to tell the people that it costs this. Because as it said, Joe said, we're going to leverage land, which costs money, and no one hears anything that we're going to spend this much money on affordable housing. Instead, this nebulous deal happens, and actually, this should be luxury housing. It's in a luxury area. We could spend the money more effectively in a different area, but instead we have the city council basically virtue signaling, saying, "Oh, we affordable housing. We're not getting our best bang for our buck." In fact, this whole project is we're not getting any bang for our buck. I mean, I don't even want to go into the 47. Okay, I have to say it. I did the calculations. If you take away the cost of the streetscape, and you take away the cost of the city's numbers here, of the retail shell and the pad on the top. I figured it out, 377 spaces. We're talking about $47,000 per spot. I just looked again at the story about Royal Oak, $28,400 a spot. It's just, oh my God. You know, that's what, when I watched them, I asked questions and I was ignored during the process here. And so I got discouraged and I stopped asking. I had no idea. I looked at all the drawings and everything about the back of the dot. I had no idea it was going to look like that. I mean, Bernie said it's just like, this is not acceptable in any way, shape, or form. It doesn't fit in with anything. Anyways, I'm probably getting, but yeah, we've spent an enormous amount of money on this, and we're not getting any bang for our buck. And it's everywhere, it's horrible. But as far as the design goes, I love the fact that there's brick on the south side. It's wonderful. It actually fits in. It's the one thing that fits in. They should take that and go redesign the rest of the back of the dot, and then turn it around and go a little with more of the brick and horizontal, right? The whole neighborhood, there's a little bit of brick, but mainly it's horizontal siding everywhere, right? There's nothing really horizontal that I could see in this design. I do see a little bit of brick, and like I said, it's great, it's by my house, or it's getting around the corner to my house. But that's what I would like to see. I would like to see the back redesigned so that it's not an insult, and that it takes the residents all their concerns. I mean, when you look, you can see through through his windows, you can see the lights of that thing. It looks like a jail during the day, and at night you get like a dramatically stage-lit tableau of the inside of a parking structure. It's so ugly. Anyways, that's it. That's what I'd like to see. This isn't horrible, but it doesn't really fit in. It could be made to fit in. The whole idea, I got what anyone was thinking when they did this design. It fits nothing around. There's no design elements in the backs of the buildings on 9 Mile or anywhere around. What they did with the dot. I mean, I talked to the architect. It was mind-numbing. My brain hurt when I was done. But anyway,
I'm gonna give you the high sign, Mr. Nicholson. Any
okay,
final
I'm
comments?
done.
Okay.
You got
All
that.
right.
Thank you for listening and letting me unload.
You got it. Thanks, Mr. Nicholson.
Okay, the next person that we have in line is Derek.
Thank you. Welcome, Derek.
Hello, Derek Pratley, 630 West Breckenridge. Just had three quick questions to ask. First of all, I don't understand the dynamics of the public property comment, so I don't know who owns what, who is going to be developing what and paying for it, and who's going to be profiting from the structure, the new housing structure. The second comment is I don't understand what's happening to the sidewalk on the east side of Allen, because it just doesn't look like there's enough room for the 36 feet deep building with a walk up and landscaping and streetscaping. So I don't understand the sidewalk. And thirdly, I'd be very interested to know what the definition of affordable housing is, because I don't have it in front of me. That's it.
Thank you, Derek.
Yep.
Okay, the next person that is in line is Henry Julisher. I apologize if I butchered that last name.
Welcome, Henry. Thank you.
My name is Henry Julisher. I also live at 346 West Saratoga. We are right behind the dot structure. So this call is about the building, so I will only discuss the building, the proposed housing development. So the lot that is proposed is very small. Like currently there's a sidewalk, which you just put in for residents to walk downtown. With the proposed building, there's no way you will be able to have a sidewalk. Secondly, in the last open discussion item on Breckenridge, we were talking about a double lot for 5 units. Here we're talking about a lot that's smaller than a single lot. And you want to put 11 units of people who need to park their cars, who will have guests. The space is simply not there. Third, it's going to be an all wood structure from what I understand. So I want to know what the longevity is of such a building. How will it withhold time? What will it look like in 30 years? How much maintenance will it be an eyesore in 30 years? I mean, I'm very much concerned about the building structure and how it's going to be built. And I guess those are my main questions, but
Thank you.
Based on what I see currently in Zoom, I do not see any hand raise. I will toggle back and forth between the screens to see if anybody wants to wave their hands and say that they would like to. Okay, we just received one. Christian Rice.
Thank you. Welcome, Christian.
Hi again. Just a quick suggestion to the architect. Everyone's commenting on the look, how it looked compared to the surrounding houses. I would like to see a rendering with kind of like a 360 view of the, I know that's a lot of work, but I'd like to actually see a rendering that includes the surrounding area to see how well it blends in. So that's on you if you want to do that or not. And then the other question I had was, when you were presenting the PowerPoint or whatever that was, I couldn't tell if the access to the units is available from the parking structure, or if it's only from the Allen Troy Street. I couldn't tell if the units were connected to the parking structure so that the people didn't have to walk outside or not, is my question. So that's all I had.
That's a great question. Thank you.
They would walk around. They would walk outside.
We'll get back to him, Jason. Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the audience at this time, Erin?
We just received 2 more. So the first one is Sydney Griffin.
Welcome, Sydney.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sydney Griffin. I live at 416 Albany Street. So one of my concerns is in one of the site plan images, there is a note that says enhanced alley, and I'd like to know what that entails. Another concern of mine is that there is not adequate green space as is in downtown Ferndale, and walking by the dot structure as it is already incredibly tall. I'm wondering if it would be possible to, instead of having the 2-story townhouses, to have 1-story apartments on the 3rd floor, and then the 4th floor be a green space for the community. That would be a really beautiful thing to see.
Thanks, Sydney.
The next one is Mike Flores.
Welcome, Mike.
Hello, can you hear me? Yes. So good evening. My name is Mike Flores on Weddington Street. And I wasn't gonna make any comments, but I really have to say that I really appreciated the first speaker in allowing the community to see really what the impact of that dot has on the surrounding community. So I think I have 3 questions. Number 1 is in regards to the additional affordable housing. What additional impact, like pollution, will that have on the surrounding community? So I don't know if there's a way to illustrate that, to understand really the direct impact to those residents around the dot and the affordable housing. And then the second is this constant encroachment of kind of taller and taller buildings in kind of our core downtown and main corridors. So I live in the downtown area. I'm currently in my kitchen. And if you look outside my door, you can see the downtown, basically the commercial CVS area. And my biggest fear is that in the next 10, 15 years, a developer is going to come in and propose a much taller building. I currently have evergreens growing that are hopefully will grow to hide kind of the roof line of the CVS and the washateria behind me. But if a developer wants to propose something taller, I think it's going to be concerning. And I think that it really impacts, I think this really supports some of the comments that were made earlier in terms of, you know, buyers who came in and saying, hey, I want this to be my life home, which is my intent here in this particular home. But if there's a developer who's going to come in and build the 5-story building, this is not going to become my life home, my lifelong home. So I think that that's very concerning, especially for some of us who have moved from the southeast of Ferndale to the northwest of Ferndale, specifically looking to live in downtown Ferndale and trying to have a sense of neighborhood and preserve a sense of kind of a small town. I think that that's really, we're losing some of that as some of these taller buildings are coming in. And then my last comment is in regards to these developments and parking spots. I know that at the last commission meeting, as the affordable housing for the LGBT community was being discussed, and the Ferndale House 2 was discussed almost 3 or 4 or 5 commission meetings ago. They were talking about how you don't need X amount of parking because there's a lot of people who just walk and use public transportation and so forth. And they referenced the Whittington Tower and how that parking lot is usually empty. So I drive down Whittington every morning and in the evening. So between 7 in the morning and 8 o'clock in the morning, I drive by and I look at that parking lot, and that parking lot is full. And the whole Whittington side that allows parking is packed from Pavlon all the way to Woodward. In the evening, and I usually get home around 8 or 9 o'clock in the evening. This evening, a little bit earlier. Again, that Whittington Tower parking lot is packed. And so is the whole strip of Whittington between Woodward all the way to Pavlon. So I would really like to see hard data from our residents in terms of how we use, how residents who live in some of these towers are actually using public transportation or how many cars they have. Because I think the data that was presented, at least for the LGBT tower, was data based on in Chicago, which obviously, as we know, has very robust public transportation. So I think that when we say, hey, data shows this, we need to talk about data in our community that reflects our community. Because I think that if you look at how parking spaces are being utilized in our community, it's a lot more frequent than I think we want to admit to push a particular agenda. So those would be my only comments.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
The next person in line is JP Saunier. I apologize if I pronounced that last name incorrectly.
Welcome.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Saunier. I have the first question. We have 2 questions to ask, and we're at 315 West Saratoga.
Thank you.
So during the DOT construction, when they were had just started, since I'm home during the day, I could feel the major vibrations of the pounding in the ground. And now, since with this new development, they have to dig the basement. It's very like I'm very curious about the lead situation, because right now Ferndale's a lot of hot water with the lead that's been found. And how is this being addressed? Because obviously with the old construction, the older housing that we have in our community, a lot of people are not fit. I know they're handing out filters right and left, but I don't think, you know, there's going to be a lot of shakeup with the piping, the old pipes with the new construction again. So I was wondering how that was going to be addressed. And then he has another question.
Could I real quick, I'm sorry, Stephanie, could I just ask, I want to make sure I understood your question right. I thought you were asking about any potential pollution on the site, but you were asking more about for surrounding homes.
Surrounding homes, exactly. Because
okay, thank you.
I could feel like every day for weeks the pounding in my home. And I know that had to shake up a lot of the old residue, the water main, a lot of the old pipes in our neighborhood. So again, we're gonna go through that again a second time. So that's just and now there is more information on the lead in the Ferndale area. So I was just wondering how that will be addressed.
Okay. Hi, I'm JP. Just a quick comment before I ask my question regarding just the general look of the dot and, the surrounding projects, whether it's the residential portion or the office. As a resident at 315 West Saratoga, I don't think myself or any of my neighbors consider this, 4-story raw concrete structure to be an improvement to the surrounding neighborhood. I mean, if the city and the commission were trying to make a statement in terms of a, brutalist type of architecture, I think, well done, I guess. But in terms of the surrounding area, it clearly does not fit. The damage is done, however. I just wish I got involved in, the discussion that have been going on since 2017. What I'm worried about is obviously the future disruption, in our neighborhood. We've had to deal with this for, 2 years, whether it's the traffic, the pounding, on site, the potential pollution that comes with the construction, with, the aging infrastructure. I guess my question is regarding, how it's going to affect the traffic on Allen Street, which is a very busy street connecting 9 Mile to 8 Mile. I mean, obviously the street is going to be closed or partially closed to some extent. And obviously I would like to know, how is that disruption going to be mitigated? How is the traffic going to be rerouted across the neighborhood? And yeah, in a nutshell, that's my question.
Thank you, JP. Thanks, Stephanie.
Okay, the next one is Chris and Cliff.
Welcome. Oh, I see you. Welcome.
Hi there. I'm Chris Matthews, 338 West Saratoga Street. I have a few comments and also wanted to give people an opportunity to continue to see what the parking structure looks like from the south side. I think the developer kind of kicked us off here, showing or talking about the west side of the building being unsightly, and I definitely agree. From the rendering I saw, it looked pretty sharp. It reminded me of downtown Birmingham, so I definitely don't know if it fits here. I share a lot of the same concerns as far as space. If you go and look at that lot, it's quite small. Also, I guess just some general comments as well regarding the design and overall building. Mike, who was speaking earlier, who's on the north side of 9 Mile. Similarly, I bought this home in 2013. It was a flat parking lot. I invested a lot of money into this property, expecting to stay here kind of for my forever home. With this and constant light pollution and just, it's not fun to look at. I also, walked through it this weekend. You can clearly look into any window or door that's open. You can see clearly into everybody's lawn, security concerns, all of that kind of stuff. So wanted to just also say that, I find the south side unsightly as well and would love for some more to be done. This also might seem small and petty, but the south side is the only side that does not have any Christmas lights or decorations on it. So all three sides, but then the residents who have to stare at it day in, day out do not have anything to look at. Also, I feel like, I have been participating or shown up and provided feedback back from 2017. I live next to Bernie as well. I feel a little concerned that, the feedback isn't heard or acted upon. So I kind of feel like that's a concern on this as well. So I think everything else from a question standpoint, everyone else covered for me. I don't know if you.
Yeah, this is Cliff Rayner, also at 338. My only question is similar to some other questions regarding the affordable housing. If that is a component of this, I would like to know how it's defined and also what the mechanism would be to ensure that it actually occurs in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, I do not see any additional hand raised via Zoom. We do not have any callers at this time. I'll toggle over to the next screen. So I don't see anyone else at this time, Chair Baker.
Alrighty. Okay, thank you, everybody. Let us start by answering a couple of questions. There were a few things here that are probably for the city rather than the applicant. I do want to start though. Commissioner Showalter, are you still on the line? I saw that you went off, but then I texted Aaron because we got a question about why you recused yourself. So if you're on the line and want to answer, although I believe his intention was to step away from the meeting. There we go.
Hey, sorry, I'm here, just eating dinner and listening in. But can you guys, yes, I did end up recusing myself from the meeting because my fiance works for the architect, and I can't, and I didn't feel it was right to judge a project based on that reason.
Thanks, Commissioner Showalter. That has happened once before with one of our planning commissioners who is an architect, a similar situation. It doesn't happen often, but thank you, Matt, for being transparent about that. He did let us know before the meeting he was going to not weigh in on any votes or discussions related to this item. I want to go through, there were a few questions about ownership. So I wonder if we could take those first before we've got questions for the architect. Our city manager is still here. Joe, would you talk a bit about that? Who owns the land? Who would own the property? Who would profit from that, please?
Yeah, if you look at the development agreement that is attached in the packet, it outlays the terms and condition of ownership. The city government owns the public parking facility, and technically, we still currently own all parcels that are associated and represented in the planned unit development. The development agreement defines the development terms for residential, retail, and office. And upon closing, based upon those terms, ownership would be transferred over for residential and the retail commercial space along West Troy to the developer in exchange for said terms and conditions that are in the packet.
So a private developer pays for and would, if there were any profits, potentially profit from this housing development. The city of Ferndale is not paying to build this housing.
Correct.
Okay.
The city of Ferndale agreed to convey the property in accordance to the development goals that are articulated in the development agreement. There's a question about affordability and how that's defined.
Yes.
It is defined in the development agreement. If you look at page 10, you will see the development agreement terms and the mixed use terms in terms of defining AMI. I will actually allow Jordan Torrey, our Director of Community and Economic Development. He oversaw City Council's recent adoption of the Community Affordability Housing Plan. And these AMI terms they correlate with that strategic plan. Jordan, can you speak a little bit about the definition of affordable housing?
And also there was a question about how it's insured, how we make sure it happens.
Yeah, absolutely. I picked up on that one as well. That's actually really important to our department too. So affordability, that is defined. It started sort of obviously with the plan that Joe referenced, but back in 2017, we had our first inclusive housing policy. Essentially the way we define it is using HUD terms, the Department of Housing and Urban Development. So your area median income is roughly $62,000 for Ferndale and the associated area. And so I know the developers have been starting to run the numbers. I would defer to Greg and his team on sort of what those preliminary rents are looking like. But the way we do it, now I will say that this project, and Greg alluded to this, is exceeding our minimum requirements. As a matter of fact, our inclusive housing policy only comes into play for projects of 25 units and up, and it requires 25% affordability. With Greg, as he mentioned, we're shooting for 100% here. And so what would happen is our policy as it is currently for that 25% requires a mix of incomes that are 60% of the area median income, 50%, and 80%. So right now that has been sort of the starting point. And as Greg mentioned, they're looking to do better than that. So they're actually looking to include some 30% AMI in here. And so those numbers are all still being finalized, and that's all still being worked on. The mechanism where that gets enforced, it's twofold. First off, the incentives that would be delivered to this are tied to that. So if the rents go away, the incentives go away. And how we ensure that is my department actually runs a rental inspection throughout the city, just like any other rental property throughout the city. We would inspect this on a regular basis. The one added layer of fun here would be we would look at those rent rolls. And so we would verify, and we could either do that directly. This would be the first project in Ferndale with affordable housing. And so one of the ways we've been exploring the best way to provide that enforcement, either directly through the CED department or partnering with a third party to provide those income verifications. But we would be looking at the rent rolls every rental inspection. And if those rent rolls were not in compliance, we have the leverage of revoking or denying the rental license. So we have the licensure itself, as well as the incentives, are two very powerful mechanisms to ensure that the affordability is maintained.
Thanks, Jordan. All right, I want to turn it. This is now probably I see this is probably for the architect. I see Jason. Would you talk about the sidewalk? We had several questions about the size of the site and how public access would work, how public amenities would still fit on the site. Can you talk about the sidewalk and public circulation, please?
Sure. So right now the sidewalk is still a bit in flux and being designed. The idea that we had though was to have the building sit on the property line. And then what we want to do is add some green space in front of the building. So what it would do is it would take a little bit of space out of the sidewalk and then potentially, and this is why I'm saying it's still being designed, it may eliminate the street trees, maybe we keep them in. We just haven't gotten there yet, to be honest with you. So, and then this goes back to the one comment about, putting a unit right on the sidewalk, right on the street down there. So we wanted to add a little bit of a buffer there. So we're working these out. We're sensitive to everything, and we're going to make sure that it all makes sense. So we're not 100% dialed in on it yet, but these are all good comments, and frankly, we're appreciative that they're coming forward, and these are things that we're working on.
Thanks, Jason. Pedestrian circulation, particularly where now we've got cars coming in and out of a parking structure. We've already got tight sidewalks just north of this, next to Rosie's, because of prior easements and lot lines and all sorts of things.
Yep.
Yeah, the public access is going to be really, and safety will be really important.
100%, completely understand. Yep.
Thank you. Would you also talk about your utilities? Are wires going to be buried? There was kind of a question about utilities that are existing and how things would feed this property.
So my understanding is that the wires that are along the street there will be buried, and the rest of the utilities. So the transformer we still have to find a location for. That's something in process, but everything will be coming into the basement. That's the goal. And if the transformer is somewhere around the site in the garage or wherever it ends up, we'll find a space for it. But chances are everything's going to come right into the basement. That's the goal.
Thank you. Will you talk about access? I'm going to come back to construction hours and staging. I'm going to stick with a couple of site access questions.
Sure.
Where would residents be parking? Will they park in the parking structure? And then how do they get to their house from where they're parking?
So residents will be parked in the parking structure, and they'll walk out of the garage and down the street and into the building.
And my understanding is that we'll learn more about that when a full site plan comes, because we'll get some details. I believe then I asked the city manager this question. That's when we would get details about parking configurations. I know people are buying parking passes. That whole sort of city side of it would be.
That's above my pay grade,
yeah. That'll be more elaborated when we do a site plan, correct?
I understand that was all part of the PUD, and that's how we've been moving forward. And I think the details were yet to be vetted.
Yeah, my understanding is there's no free ride here. People are either paying for parking passes or something that you're working out right now, right, Joe?
Correct.
Yeah, that would be correct. And to go back to the minutes, to be clear, when we designed and studied the parking capacity and how many spaces we would build, we factored in the future development that was contemplated. So that included assumptions made about traffic that an office space would generate, traffic that the retail space would generate by square footage, and then traffic that the residential space would generate by square footage. So that was all factored into the supply that is currently there.
Right, it's parking study.
Thanks. And then Jason, they're then exiting the parking structure, probably on that Allen side, and then walking into that. You can't walk through the structure into your house, right?
Correct, yeah. They have to leave the structure, walk through, along the sidewalk into the building, correct.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's grab then these two questions about construction.
Before
staging.
you go on,
I'm sorry.
I had a question that didn't get answered about the size of the lot. I would like to know specifically how large is the lot?
Yep, Henry, thank you. Yep, if folks can just hold on, we've got like 3 pages of notes, so I'm just working my way through. Thank you. We've got questions here from Bernie about staging and kind of about construction courtesy as well. So construction working hours and staging. Will there be any staging in the alley? Have you contemplated that yet?
We have not, no.
This is Greg.
Good.
I'll jump in on this one because I'm sifting through all my notes to try to knock a couple down at the same time. So if you will allow me, I will address 2 or 3 quick items. Number one, I think it was asked about the staging. Clearly, there's going to have to be construction staging off of Allen Street. We don't intend to use the alley except for the occasional shutdown for an electrical tie-in or something, which is pretty normal in construction. So we intend to maintain alley access, 100% plus or minus, the normal shutdowns. The second item relates to there was a question about enhanced alley. If you just allow me, that's something that's on the PUD. So we don't. The alley is built and maintained by the city. And then I think it was a question about like the disruption from construction. I fully understand that this was a disruptive project. The deck was. It's a massive concrete and steel structure and glass and everything else. They excavated over 18 feet into the ground and had to put really heavily reinforced foundations. One of the reasons we're going with a lightweight construction method, a couple reasons. One is the foundation requirements are not as great, which directly relates to the amount of excavation. Secondly, we eliminated the basement on the quote unquote, the kind of the residential side of the project. The basement is really a utility basement and it's on the north end of the building, which is away from, well, it's not away from the residential to the west, but it's away from the residential to the south. But we do have to have that basement in there, but it's a normal kind of excavation. It's not nearly the kind of site work that was seen during the construction of the deck. I'm sure that's all relative because the people adjacent, any construction is probably disruptive, and I totally understand that. So that also addresses the issue of kind of the vibration and the shaking. Clearly there's going to be noise, but we will actually work with the city and make sure that we decide and agree to the kind of timing for construction. It's not a difficult project to build. I mean, I kind of want to emphasize we're looking at methods even like panelized walls that come in on a truck and get lifted onto the site. So our goal is to minimize the impact. We don't want to be a bad neighbor, ultimately. This is a long-term investment for me, long-term investment. So, I don't want to start off on the wrong foot. And with that said, we will definitely keep working on the design. But I hope I hit a few of those quick items and thanks for the mic, so to speak.
You did, thank you. So design actually is where I was going to go next. So Henry had a question. I'm going to come back to materials, but specifically about the size of the site. Have you got dimensions in front of you, Jason?
Yeah, it's 106.5 by 35.8 is what I'm getting off of the stuff I have here.
So width-wise, about the same as sort
residential lot, sure.
Small Ferndale residential lot. Yep. Okay. talk to us about exterior finishes. So we've heard about neighborhood character as opposed to the character of the garage. We've heard about brick and horizontal lines, perhaps as being components of that neighborhood character, and also about some of the materials that you're contemplating and what the longevity of those materials from the building to the exterior finishes are.
Sure. So first and foremost, the materials that we're picking out, as Greg mentioned, this is a long-term hold for him. He's going to have it for a very long time. We want to make sure this is a 100-year building. And the constructability, I heard some concerns about, wood construction of a 4-story building. This building will last long after we're all gone, because we do this a lot with apartment buildings, multifamily. As long as you build it right, it'll last forever. And as far as the materials go, we did want to honor at least the color palette of the garage. And I heard nothing but some criticism of the garage and everything. And I get that. And I actually, honestly, I respect it. I appreciate it. And I get how there's a concern about tying it into the residential neighborhoods. This is a transitional area in town. And what we did was we introduced brick and a lot of brick, frankly. And then we have the cast stone material, which is basically just a larger piece of brick. And then up at the very top, where we want it to be lighter, that's where we have the metal panels. So personally, I feel like we're addressing the concerns, and really there's a lot of detail to it. We're introducing a lot of things that impact Greg's bottom line, some details and architectural features. But I gotta tell you, we wanted to make sure that we do something really special because this is a great spot. Being sincere, it's a great spot in town. It's like the center of town. We want to make sure that the city's proud of it at the end of the day. So we truly believe that we're creating something that will be wonderful. We're still working on it. We're going to take all of these ideas and comments and keep working on it. And I think one of the major things is to make sure that we have the material. I think the materials and some of the design features need to be scaled down a bit. The garage is very tall and big and huge. If you look at I keep glancing at the rendering, when you look at it, we're breaking things down into smaller portions so that it's a transition in the neighborhood. We can't have a 4-story building that's 11 units look like a house. It wouldn't look right. So I feel like we're on the right track. And as long as we have high quality materials and treat it right, I think it'll be wonderful at the end of the day.
Will you be able to bring, so there was some conversation about both a 360 view when you come back with a site plan, as well as going back to the prior conversation, just some context and, sort of show a little bit of, what's across the street or what's behind it in terms of
absolutely. Yeah,
shadow casting and, okay.
This whole thing's built in the model. We can, we can't build every house exactly how it is, but we can show representative each home. That's pretty onerous, but yeah, absolutely, we can show that. Yeah.
There was a question about community space and whether or not the developer would be able or willing, I guess, to withgo the 4th floor to have that be an open space.
Yeah, I heard, this is Greg again. I heard the comment. I'm kind of digesting it. Part of me loves the idea of kind of a rooftop deck. Part of me doesn't like the idea of the rooftop deck, to be quite honest with you. So yeah, I think it's a really ingenious way to do green space. You could tie it into the deck and everything.
I think you'd have to be really thoughtful about that. We have a lot of conversations about balconies, decks, public versus private open space. So, noise, light, respecting neighbors. I can see the pros, and that the commenter made about a community space in a former community-owned property, right? But okay, all right, you're thinking
it's
about
a tough
it.
one.
All right,
it's a tough one. Yep.
Talk to me about light, whether that's Greg or Jason. I don't know. I saw in one of your renderings you've got some like up lights washing up the building. Like, no, it's really pretty in the picture. Like, that's totally not going to fly. But what can you tell us about how light will be coming toward neighbors and out of windows? You don't have like giant full glass walls. There's not sort of that humongous uninterrupted light, but
correct. No, I mean we do a lot of glass, but it's facing areas where you would expect it to face. The renderings are conceptual ideas. At the end of the day, what we need to do is comply with the ordinance in Ferndale, which we will. We'll make sure we respect the neighbors. We always do. One thing I want to point out is that we do not have any windows that face to the south. We do in the stairwell, but we can eliminate them. The only reason why we added that was just to add some fenestrations. I really don't think Greg would have a problem with us, getting rid of that. Maybe we just add some more detailing on the brick or something like that. So right now, this building will not impact the neighbors at all.
So in terms
To
of
the
what it
south.
looks like from the south,
Correct.
right now there's some windows in that south facade
In the stairwell, correct.
that may or may not move, or you would think about how light moves through them.
Yeah, I like, this is Greg. I like the idea of windows for
Yeah.
fenestration to break it up, so it's just not a big wall. We can tone that down. They can be motion sensor activated because they are in the stairwell.
Okay.
So we'll work on it for sure. I don't necessarily like the idea, and I'd be interested in the neighbors to the south. The idea of just a big old brick wall, but I don't have to look at it. So if people tell me they want it to be that way, I'm good. And keep in mind, that's actually where the egress stairway has to go. That's all kind of utility along that kind of south wall. So we'll definitely work on it. Love to do something creative for them in the back. I can't fix the deck back, but we can fix this deck back while we're at it. So we'll do our best.
Chris and Cliff were two who specifically talked about and showed us some of the light there behind them, just for your notes, Greg and Jason.
Yeah, I saw that.
Okay.
Yep, I got it.
And then traffic. Talk to us about traffic during construction, if you know that yet. And if not, we would want to have information on that when you come back with a site plan.
Yeah, I'll defer on that one. We're going to work on our site logistics plan.
Yeah, if you're still working on
obviously-
staging, you might not have
Yeah.
traffic yet. Okay.
Yeah, we're not there yet, so we'll
All right.
keep that in mind. Get back.
And then this might be a question for the city. Stephanie's question about existing infrastructure, particularly her concern about lead pipes and about construction vibration, impacting her existing utilities and potentially stirring stuff up. Can someone talk about that a little bit? I don't know that we have an answer for that at the moment, but how you might find an answer or follow up with her.
Yeah, well, I'd say I'd rather just directly follow up, but broadly speaking, I can talk about the lead line replacement requirements that every community in Michigan is required to do. We are required to replace 7% of known private lead line replacements as of this year. So we will be, like every other community, we'll be doing that, and that's a requirement of Eagle as of 2018. We are shoring up our policy for how we're going to work our way through achieving 100% replacement within the Eagles requirements. So that policy is being sorted out, but it's complex and frankly quite convoluted. I would be happy to reach out to JP's family with the details on that policy and how we would work with them on that.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to jump into a couple of my questions and then we'll move to other commissioners. I'm sure we've got some more. What's the trash plan for this site? Is there going to be a dumpster somewhere? I do not think you can put a dumpster in an alley. I'm nearly 100% positive that that's not permitted. Are people doing individual wheel out cans?
So I can take that really quick. So right now the plan is to have a trash chute in the building, and then there's a dumpster that faces the alley. There's a rolling closing door that would shut, permanently, and then when they take the trash, they open up the door and they wheel it out and empty it.
Okay. I think as you work through the site plan, I know that was a question that Erin had on her docket about where dumpsters can be located and whether or not they can be in alleys.
Yep. Yeah. So are you saying that they cannot be in an alley? I mean, the dumpster is internal. On the ground floor, there's a refuse room. That's where it's going.
Oh, it's internal. Oh, I'm sorry.
It's right in the lower right corner, kind of the southeast corner.
Thank
The
you.
trash has its own special room. Yep.
Okay, I understand. Accessibility wise, sort of physical accessibility, people in wheelchairs, people with other disabilities, people who just don't want to walk up 3 flights of stairs to get to the house. Talk to me about which units are physically accessible. Is it just those on the first floor?
The ground floor units, yes, correct.
And are those 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom? Remind me.
Those are 2 1-bedroom units.
So right now there's
And actually,
And
yeah,
a 2-bedroom.
I thought it was 4.
Oh, they're all.
they're all ones.
Okay. So right now there's 4 units on the ground floor that would be physically accessible.
3.
3. Okay.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3. Yep.
And would your doors be wide enough? Would you guys consider doing that? You know, making this a space that would be welcoming to people, you know, with wheelchairs or walkers?
Oh,
so
of
they
course,
can-
yeah. Every door will be 3 feet wide minimum. You know, code says everything has to be at least, you know, like a type B type unit. So yeah, it would be absolutely.
Thank you. Are there any spots that you foresee potentially there being a safety concern that you want to address with lighting? I'm thinking specifically on the back of the building, but also on the north side where people have to exit the structure and then walk around to their house. Just kind of, I'm thinking about other like lighting that might be on all night is what I'm looking for.
You know, that's a good question. I don't know exactly what the timing is like for lights on the parking deck, to be honest with you. That'd be ideal, right? We want people to be safe as they walk around. All that I can address, unless Greg has something else, is that we would just make sure we would handle lighting, you know, properly around on this building, you know, per se. We can't really address what the garage is doing.
Oh no, understood about the garage, but for this building, I think that will be an important detail for neighbors is knowing which lights, because of safety considerations, might be on all night. So if you
Got it.
I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, not a porch light someone can turn on, but if there's something that you see and you say, I think we need a light here, I think that will be important. We don't usually go into that level of detail on the site plan, but given conversations and concerns on the rest of this PUD project.
That's a good point, though. Let me, yeah, I'm gonna write that down. That's a good question.
Thank you. And then I also want to, because we had a lot of conversations, gosh, at parking committee meetings, at planning committee meetings, about noise and sound and mechanicals on the parking deck. So I wondered if you'd talk a little bit about where your air conditioning compressing units are going. Are they going in that basement unit area, or is there going to be anything on the roof that's going to make noise?
Correct. So good question. So right now they're all going up on the roof. The condensing units will go up there. We have a 4.5 foot high parapet all around, so you won't see anything. And I promise you won't hear anything either. Sound goes up. They're already screened on the sides, and that's the only thing going up on the roof too. So mechanically.
I wanted to make sure to clarify that. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Because you had talked about that underground mechanical, but I wanted to make sure that we were really clear that there would be things on top of the roof too that we would see in the site plan related to air conditioning. Okay.
Yep. Correct. Yep.
All right. Other planning commissioners, that has been a thorough vetting. But I imagine we may have some other questions and comments at this time. Again, there's no action this evening. This is a discussion item. There's no formal site plan in front of us. I think we've just given the developer and the architect a good list of things that we would expect to come back with a site plan, but let's keep going. Commissioner Hagfors.
Yeah, so to kind of address the spatial constraint of the property. So I had a friend go out there and measure it, and currently to where the existing sidewalk is to where the dot is at 32 feet. So clearly then it's oh, go ahead. Oh, sorry. Okay. And so it's 32 feet. And so clearly then the sidewalk that was just put in is going to be taken out, moved to the side of the street, and that's how you get to about your 36 feet depth of the building. And so I guess the one thing I really am concerned about, and I know it was brought up about questioning where the sidewalk's going. So I'm not opposed to the sidewalk going along Allen, because again, it's kind of that transition between downtown and the residential area. But connectivity to the residential area is important. And then also, you did mention that you know, adding the sidewalk is not yet determined. You got kind of, you know, you want to do some landscaping, but you're fine space for the sidewalk. I think you need to flip it. You have the sidewalk, you're fine space for landscaping, because that's important for the transition from the residential to the commercial district.
Thanks, Dustin. Other
Thank you.
commissioners? All right, commissioners, who wants to jump in next?
This is Councilman Polika.
Thanks, Greg.
Two things. One, I would like it to be investigated whether or not at least one of the floors, the upper floors, could be accessible from the parking structure. I'd really like that to be investigated. At least, you know, one door access to either the second or the third floor. I know that parking floors don't always align up with residential or office building floors, but if there's a possibility, there's a one step up or down difference that might be doable. The other thing is in regards to the rooftop units, the air conditioning units. I live a block away from the credit union, Credit Union 1, and trust me, the sound travels. When their air conditioning unit goes on all summer long, I hear it. So I would really encourage that sound buffers be placed around it, especially on the south and the west sides of the building, of the units, so that residents don't have to listen to those units going on. Sound travels, and I know sound would like to go up, but it only goes up if you direct it that way. So those are the only two things that I have.
Thank you. And Erin did just let me know that we've got 2 hands raised. She sees you in the audience. Let's give another minute. I want planning commissioners to comment, and then we'll see if we've got other comments from the audience. Commissioner Foster?
Thanks. I was just going to comment. I don't believe that there's any parapet that covers the Union 1 conditioners, and I think that's why they don't have the sound attenuation. I might not be 100% accurate on that, but I'm pretty sure that I've seen the result. And I think that's why you do have more sound coming from that building, that and being older units, but maybe we could get that verified just as a reference point.
Thank you. Erin, who were our residents who had hands back up?
Yeah, so the first one is Henry.
Henry, welcome. I see you, 3-bar.
Sorry, I just want to make it very clear that the lot size that you're proposing 11 units to go 44 feet high is larger than the lot of our house here, which is 1.5 floors, and it's small. So to put I don't know how many square feet this building's planning to be, but it's not going to fit. It's just too big. It's too big for the size. You're going to have to get rid of the sidewalk, and it's not going to be desirable. It can't be. And to think otherwise is foolish. That's the first thing. And the other thing I had a follow-up question is, does the lot is it currently owned by the city still? The lot in question? So it's not a done deal here?
I will ask. Thank you. And we've got another. I'm sorry, Henry. Was that it?
You're still muted.
Oh, sorry,
Quote of the year, right?
Yeah, I need a T-shirt that says that.
So I mean, I just want to be realistic here, and we are the residents, and we walk by this every day, and I've lived in Europe. I know what dense living is. Even there, this, it's just too small, and it's what would the city gain from selling the lot to the developer other than affordable housing? What would be the gain? What would be the loss for the residents and the existing residents that live in the city? So, you know, it's both sides to weigh.
Okay, the next person is Bernie.
Hi, thank you for giving me a chance to ask another question. The architect had mentioned, one, I'd like to thank the architect for all his responses. I kind of wish you would designed the parking garage, but that being said, the cables that you said were going to be buried, who will be paying for that? Is the city going to be responsible for that, or will you be taking care of that?
Thanks, Bernie.
That's
Okay.
a city question, I believe. Or Greg, do you want to address that?
I would know the answer on any other development, but not on this PUD. So if there's an answer, otherwise.
We have one more
This is-
hand raised. So
Yeah,
I
this is
I don't know if
Greg,
you want
yeah.
to do that one first, or if you want to go to answer the questions.
Oh, okay. You know what, Aaron? Let's hang on to the last hand since I think we're working on an answer for the.
Yep, no problem.
Who pays to bury? Thank you. Who pays to bury the lines? Not people. Greg, did you have an answer for who pays to bury utilities?
Yeah, I mean, I assume that on the residential side that it's a developer cost as part of the redevelopment of the sidewalk.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's you.
But if the city's willing to do it, I'm all good.
Pretty sure it's you. Thank you. Who else? Aaron has a comment?
Yep, Chris and Cliff.
Hi,
Thank
this
you.
is Cliff Rayner.
Hey, Cliff.
Two quick questions. The first is, and I apologize, this is my first meeting I'm attending, is a couple times there's been reference to a packet. I assume that's some sort of information that's prepared. I'd like to know how we have access to that, and also the agreement that the city manager was referencing. I'd like to know how we can review that information, just to bring ourselves up to speed. And then also I unfortunately didn't get his name, but the gentleman who was talking about doing the inspection of the rentals, being able to look at the rental rolls, things of that nature. I'd like to ensure that whatever inspection is completed, that a report is made available to the public for us to be able to review as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Cliff. Yep. And actually, Jordan might be able to answer all three of those questions. Where you can find the meeting packet, where you can find the PUD agreement, and whether or not there could be a public rental inspection report. If Jordan, there you are. Yep, you're still here.
Do you want me to do that now? Sorry, I just want to make sure.
Yes, that I believe was our last question, right, Aaron?
Great. No, yeah, I can definitely tackle those. So I'll start with the packet. So if you go to ferndalemi.gov and you go on the main webpage, you go to meetings and minutes in the green buttons in the center, and you go to Planning Commission, you'll see, like, it's the first one on the top line there, and you'll see agenda and agenda packet. The packet's the one you want because you can click that and all the different documents are attached there. I do not believe the development agreement is in that packet.
It is.
And I'm not sure if it is. Oh, thank you,
It
Aaron.
is. I updated it to include the development agreement as well as the PUD agreement.
Perfect. Thanks, Aaron. And so that's where you can find the documents. As far as the rental situation, we absolutely could share the results of that. We do those rental inspections every year for some properties, every 2 years for others, depending on the number of units. As far as the affordability, 100% committed to that. Absolutely can share that out. That's a huge priority for us. And so just letting people understand, obviously keeping individuals' personal information private, but being able to say there's X many units at this rental rate and Y many units at this rate, we're absolutely willing to do that.
Thank you. And then I don't know if this is Jordan or Joe, but the question about who currently owns this parcel.
The city currently owns this parcel, and we are working in good faith through the terms of the development agreement. So the terms of the development agreement are based on the approved PUD, and the good faith portion is the intent to continue to deliver the residential, retail, and office goals with this developer per the development agreement.
So right now the city owns this. There hasn't been any official sale to a developer.
Land has not been conveyed yet. No.
Thank you. All right. There aren't. We had a question from Commissioner Polika, and Joe, I feel like you might know the answer to this, but maybe not. But whether any access can happen directly from the structure into the building?
We have to study the code, but I believe the fire code prohibits the two buildings from having a joint access point.
Yeah.
I think it requires a firewall to separate the two buildings, but that can be confirmed by the fire marshal.
Thank you.
Building code tell you can't do that.
Building code.
I can tell you right now, guarantee you cannot do that.
I would have said the same thing. Unfortunately, I understand. Yeah, I understand the desirability, but
You would need we're doing it at a project in Troy right now, and it's a mess. You have to get into cross-access agreements and everything else. You have to get everyone to buy into it. It's a very it's an unconventional thing to do.
Councilman, would you like the city to pursue that? Was that sort of an offhand question, or is that something that you would like looked into? Because it sounds like there is a way, maybe.
If it's going to cost the city money, no. But you know, if we could investigate what the possibilities are, I mean, I'd be interested. I mean, even if it was, I don't know, rooftop access.
Thank you. All right. Yeah, coming back to the size of the lot, you know, the building owner and developer, you know, will need to determine, you know, the desirability and size of the units that he thinks he can lease when it comes to fitting, you know, things like sidewalks that are, I mean, such an essential part of our transportation system, the way that I think about it in Ferndale. Sidewalks are how I prefer to get around usually. Onto the site, that will be really important. So I know this isn't a site plan, but it's a tight space and you're in the walkable core of our community, which, you know, on the one hand would be a great place to live. I live on Bowfield by the Dairy Queen because I want to be in the walkable core of my community, but I've got nice big sidewalks to do it on too. So that is also certainly a resident amenity for the new development, but also for the rest of the city. Any other final questions or comments from the commission before I see you, Dave. Hold on one sec. Other final questions or comments from the commission? We do have one final resident comment, it looks like.
Okay, I just want to jump on what one of the other residents said about the letter and the not having a place to find the information, the packet. Sending out a letter saying that there's going to be a hearing, but not saying where you can get the information, not good. It doesn't really show good faith that you're trying to let us know what's going on. I looked at that and I immediately go, well, it says there's a design and so on. Where's my information to be? And I ended up finding out that and this is the quote, as a courtesy, it would not be released until the agenda was released. Well, I really think if you want to look like you're acting in good faith, if you're going to send a letter out, you put where you can find the information so that the people can review it in good time and they don't have to go and ask where to find the information. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. I do know that our agenda packets for any items that we're considering are always posted on the website. It's sort of the same place where you would find a council packet. Just, you know, choose planning commission.
Well, it's just that when you send a letter to somebody, everybody doesn't know this. They don't know about the agenda packet. You're sending a letter to them, but and saying you can comment, blah, 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 but then there's no, well, where do we get the information? And then, so, okay, now you have to call up, you have to do this, that, and that. It's simple enough, I would think. The information's available. If you don't have the information available to be able to put it in a place and have a link, don't send the letter out. You got all the information together, send the letter out, put the link in it, blah, blah, blah. It's easy. It makes it look like you're acting in good faith.
Thanks, Dave. Got it. I know I've definitely sent out birthday invitations that I forgot to put dates and times on. So perhaps something was an oversight, but also
I would,
you know, perhaps the updating to I know there's an existing site for the PUD and that sort of thing. Maybe one location to find information will be good.
I would hope so. It's just.
I'm sorry. Oh, sorry, hold on. One speaker at a time. I think we got it, Dave.
Well, my last comment would be that I brought this up to the in an email to the city council. No one's saying, "Oh, there's a problem here, blah blah blah. We're going to try to fix this." It's just so I figure that the next time it happens, it's just okay. We're not going to make it easy for the people. It doesn't look good. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Nicholson. Okay. All right, Commissioner Foster?
Thanks. I just wanted to say that I like the sidewalk design as it is. It does look like, without dimensions on what was provided, that there might be some tight spaces around the trees, which I hope would be able to get worked out as it's nice to have the trees, but clearly we do have a tight space. So I'm just looking forward to maybe some unique revisions there. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner Foster. All right, we are going to wrap this up unless there are any other final questions or comments from the commission. We've had a good discussion this evening. Discussion items like this at the Planning Commission I think are really useful. This is sometimes one of the main ways that people do find out about new potential projects. So having a discussion before there's any action is something that I always try to do. I appreciate the city for working on that with us. So Aaron, what would the next steps, or perhaps it's a Joe question, I'm not sure, on this project be? Will there be some updates to the existing page related to the DOT with these new documents, or does that not happen until a site plan is submitted?
Yeah, so we can certainly upload, these concept designs. That's no problem. Typically, we like to have the most updated information possible available. But that's an easy fix. We can upload what is currently available to us. As far as planning and zoning goes, the next step would be to have the developer submit a formal site plan. And then because of the type of project that it is, it would come back to Planning Commission for site plan review, in addition to the normal city staff review as well. And certainly we have review times for that. So realistically, it wouldn't come back in front of Planning Commission until late January if they were to make a submission soon. And we haven't really discussed any sort of anticipated timeline. I think this was the first for it to have a discussion in front of Planning Commission. Regarding the ownership of the property, I will turn that question over to Joe to discuss what that process would look like. But as far as planning and zoning goes, that would be the next step.
The conveyance is all kind of part of the process. So it's all conditions based. So it's on the condition that the residential piece is, there's progress on that and it's submitted with the Planning Commission and there's site plan approval there. And there's also other conditions related to tenancy on the retail side. So there's a lot of conditions. It's all spelled out in the development agreement. As for a specific timeline, with Greg, I can't really articulate a specific timeline. I can say that in the coming months, generally speaking, would be the goal.
For there to be a site plan back in front of the Planning Commission.
I'd invite Greg to comment on that.
Thank you, Joe. We're not in a hurry. We want to make sure we go back and take all these notes and figure out how we can engage in the next level of design, including the site design. We are working on it now, though. It's not going to just sit. So we're going to go back and I'm going to meet with Jason and his team, and we're going to sift through comments and start to continue to make progress. I don't know if we'll directly go to site plan submittal. We might come back for another design review. So we will take our time and get through the process together.
All right, thank you very much. We are going to move on to our next item. So thank you. I'm sure we will be seeing each other again. And I know that the city has contact information for a lot of these neighbors. We also got a lot of addresses this evening in terms of being in touch. I know there was a specific question from Chris and Cliff. So Joe and Jordan, will you be able to help the applicants, with any outreach or questions they might have that they want to follow up on?
Yeah, the CE department can handle that.
Thank you. All right, thank you very much. Have a good
Thank you
evening.
very much. That's very helpful. I have 4 pages of notes, so thank you very much for facilitating this.
As do I, but you're the one who has to do something with them now, not me. So thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you all. We appreciate all your input. Thank you very much.
All right, we're going to
Happy
move on.
holidays, everybody.
Thank you to you as well. Administrative items number 8. We didn't have anything on the agenda. Erin, did you have anything for administrative items this evening?
No, nothing on our end. I think that Chair Baker is going to talk about Commissioner Williamson's last meeting, but other than that, we do not have any administrative items.
So sad. I knew this day would come. I was just, trying to delay the inevitable, I guess. So my first quick commission item, and I want to see if other commissioners have anything, is that I did reach out to the city planner in Birmingham. I've not heard back from her yet, but what we talked about at our last meeting related to both site signage for specific actions, whether it's a rezoning or something else you'd want to put, like a lawn sign at a site related to. I know they do that in Birmingham. They also have, they call it something similar to like a developer's code of conduct or a contractor's code of conduct that they put on construction sites in neighborhoods. So I've asked her about both of those things, when they employ those, who pays for them, and how they monitor them. So I will continue to follow up with her so that we can talk about that a little more in the new year. Any other commission items other than us all weeping silently in our homes because Ian's leaving us? All right, then I'll kick it off. Ian, oh my goodness, thank you so much. I know you're still chairing the zoning board, and you do so much to volunteer in Ferndale. It's just been such a pleasure to work with you. Your perspective is so valuable, and I'm so glad that they'll continue to have it on the zoning board. But you will leave a huge hole. We'll miss you very, very much on the planning commission. I just really want to thank you for all of the work that you've put in over the years. It's made a huge difference in the community. I mean, as well as to the planning commission, but really to your city. So thank you.
I would echo those sentiments. Ian, you will be missed. Thank you so much for all the hard work that you've put into the committee. Thank you for being my sounding board and debate partner at times. I've always appreciated just having you on the team. So thank you.
Luckily, you all won't really be able to escape me because I will probably still be attending meetings when you have zoning ordinance issues coming up. I've talked to Justin and mentioned to Aaron as well that I think BCA should be more involved in these, since we are the ones who actually get to interpret the zoning ordinance. When there is zoning ordinance amendments that are on the table, we probably should have a voice in how they should be worded. So you're still going to see me. I'm still going to be attending whether I'm invited or not whenever these things are on the agenda and putting in my 2 cents. That said, it has been a privilege to be on the board for the past 5 years or so that I've been on here. I very much enjoyed it. It has the entire time been a board of consummate professionals. The caliber of people that we have on the planning commission here in Ferndale is really second to none. I really hope that people in the community understand and take note of that. There are not very many communities that have the concentration of architects, planners, attorneys, people who have the relevant professional skills to come in and serve on a board like this that are also actually willing to put in the time to do it. I frankly would love to stay on the commission, but my kids have been lobbying pretty heavily for at least the past year now for me to stop. In addition to this, not only do I chair the zoning board, I'm on the relocation committee for the Detroit Friends meeting, the Quaker group in Detroit. I'm also a Cub Scout leader, and it's a lot of time. I'm on the business law section council for the State Bar of Michigan. there's a lot of meetings and a lot of stuff, and something had to give. I'm still going to follow along with everything that you guys do because I just can't extricate myself completely. And thank you all very much.
That sounds fine to me. I don't think you're going to have any objections, particularly as we come up toward master planning and really also digging into some of our residential zoning questions, which we've been talking about for so long. So you may get a text or a phone call from me as we get into a few of these things that I know come to the zoning board a lot and that we've been wanting to update or tweak, just because your insights are really invaluable, just to make sure things flow smoothly. All right. Anything else? Yep. Commissioner Foster?
Thanks. Speaking of the BZA liaison, do we know who's going to be replacing Commissioner Williamson in that position?
It's a great question.
Yeah, we have been talking a little bit internally about that, but we don't have any decisions or leads, I guess you could say. But Justin and I have been talking about it.
Do we have appointments coming up in January? Excuse me. For chair, vice chair, I don't remember when we do it. BZA liaison?
Yeah, I'll have to double check on that as well. But yes, and we will have reappointments for the commissioners that are up for reappointments, as well as filling the vacancy. So to be determined.
Yeah, that's great. I think if anyone is interested in being the liaison to the zoning board, some of us really love to dig into that stuff. I know I do. So just let Aaron know if he'd be interested in being the zoning board liaison going forward and continuing to work with Ian.
Through the chair, I think we should also look at it in the other direction. If there's someone on the BZA that may be interested in serving on the PC, there's some really great members on the BZA.
Oh, that's a great suggestion because you were on the zoning board for a number of years, Councilman. That's a great suggestion. Yep. Thank you. All right. Any other commission items before we sign off this evening, other than wishing everyone a very happy new year and a happy and healthy holiday season? I think Hanukkah might almost be over, so we've already almost missed one. So sorry, but for now and going forward,
it's still Hanukkah.
Thank you. I knew we were close. All right. Have a wonderful holiday season. Have a great new year. We'll see everyone in January. And we're not letting you go that easily, Ian. We really appreciate that you're going to jump back in on key items. Thank you. Have a good night. We'll adjourn at 8:58. Thanks, you guys.
Take care, everyone.
Thanks. Happy holidays.
Thank you.